How to pass a math course with Edmentum, part one. I am Dr. Jordan Smith, and here today I'm trying to share with you important information about how to pass a math course with Edmentum. First things first, this video is about slaying the fear of online math course dragons. Yeah, we need to get these dragons out of your head. And more importantly, we need to be able to slay them, because as long as you have something like this that you fear in your head about doing math, that is a problem. And my job is to help you overcome these dragons. So first of all, we're going to go over virtually in detail everything about what you should be doing in order to be successful in Edmentum and learning math and completing your courses and credits. Okay? So first of all, every course begins, and in this case, I'm working with the Geometry Semester A course as a PLATO student orientation, and it has some videos. The very first video is about getting orientated. It's actually what's in the course, how to get started, and how to stay on track. The next video is about the learning experience, exactly what is in a typical lesson, what you'll do in a lesson, and how to get the most out of each lesson. The third video is about the keys to success. It teaches you about, there's 3 keys to be successful. One is to stay on pace with your work. Next, complete and understand all of your assignments, and then communicate with your teacher. It's very important, if you do not understand something, that you communicate this with your teacher so that the teacher can provide you assistance in the online environment. So this is like, in the online environment, you're actually like a self-directed learner, but you are there not alone. You have supports, but you have to ask. Not everybody can read your mind, so you need to ask for help. It also includes, as part of the student orientation, a courses guide. And they said to save a copy of this guide. It covers things you need to know right now and throughout your course. How to get started, what technology you need, what your teacher and school expect from you, and what skills you need for an online course. Next, each and every course has a course overview and a syllabus. Course overview and a syllabus. And we're going to kind of take a look at that. So this is what the syllabus looks like. This is the one for California Geometry A. It gives you an overview of the goals. It's in a PDF format, so you can actually download it or print it out. It says the scope and sequence. It gives you the California standards for geometry. But more importantly, it does this. It tells you all the units, and look at the days. It tells you approximately how many days. So for Unit 1, 22 days, and if you count in school days, that's like 4 weeks. That's about 4 weeks. And also, this course overview and syllabus gives you all the lesson objectives. This is one central location that you can find the objective. What is the learning objective for each and every lesson? That information is contained right here in your course overview and syllabus. So next, let's take a look at each one of the units of study. And this one, again, I'm using as an example, is Geometry Semester A. It has 42 activities. It is divided up into 4 units, and it has an end of semester test. So virtually each one of these units is the equivalent of about 1 1/4 or 1.25 credits. Okay, 42 activities. So now, why do you need to have that information? Because it helps you plan. Let's check this out. So if you do 42 activities and you take 2 days for each activity, it's going to take you 84 school days, or approximately 17 weeks. Now take note, there are 36 weeks of school. If you have 42 activities and you do 3 days for each activity, that's 126 school days. That's approximately 25 weeks. If on the other hand, if you're like a warrior and you have 42 activities and you do 1 day each activity, that's 42 school days, you can complete 5 credits and complete this course in 9 weeks. It's your choice. But it was important for you to know how many activities. And also, as I showed you just previously, each one of these, the syllabus tells you for Unit 1, 22 days. That's roughly about 4 school weeks. This one says 23 to 47. You're going to have to be able to subtract what it's telling you. But let's go all the way down to the end. This is saying 90 days. 90 days is 18 weeks or 5 days of school. So 90 days is actually one semester, which means if you start in August and you finish by Christmas, you're on track. If you're not doing that, if you're in a recovery situation where you have deficient credits, you have to work faster than what the traditional school is doing. All right, let's go ahead and continue. Next, unit format. This is how every unit is organized. The unit has a pretest. It normally has a discussion question to answer. It has a lesson tutorial. It has a lesson activity inside that tutorial activity for you to do. It has a mastery test at the end, which is 5 questions for you to complete. And each unit also has a unit activity. And I warn you to do the following. I encourage you, highly encourage you, when you get to the unit activity, as you're doing an overview, I would actually take a look at the unit and say, hey, what am I going to be working on this whole unit? But more importantly, when you get to the unit activity, look at the rubric. It's important to look at that rubric, and I will share that with you in a couple of moments exactly why. Geometry is about vocabulary. That means axioms and postulates and theorems and proofs. And as I'm reading these words to you, you're probably getting blank. In other words, if you really understand something and have a conceptual understanding, you should be able to have a picture associated with that concept in your brain. For instance, if I say rectangle, most of you can see a rectangle or envision a window like the rectangular windows which are in my classroom. But if I said geometric extraction, if you haven't taken the course yet, you have no idea what I'm speaking about. Well, then what about axioms and postulates? Yes, geometry has a vocabulary, but the key to understanding this vocabulary is that one, you're going to need to write it down. That means you're going to need to take notes. But you can also take digital notes because here in the 21st century, we have things called Google or Google Docs. Okay, but geometry is highly sensitive and highly dependent on you understanding the vocabulary. It's like learning a foreign language. For instance, in the very beginning on the orientation of this course, I provided my students an orientation, and the purpose of the orientation was to give you some foundational skills and recommendations for you to adopt so that you can be successful. Students which are successful in passing my courses have followed everything that I provided in the orientation. If you choose to go on another path, which is very similar to what you have done prior to coming to see Dr. Smith, chances are you're going to get the same results. I highly do not recommend that. Anyway, a vocabulary visual organizer is highly recommended. Open up a Google Doc. Anytime you get a word or you see when you're reading the tutorial and it is a word that you do not understand, copy the word, open up a tab in Google, type it in, do a search, and voila, you will be able to get a definition, and in this case, an image. So geometric extraction is about artwork that uses geometric figures and shapes inside the art. Now, if I say geometric extraction to you, and close your eyes, you see a figure of pictures and artwork which is connected that ensures that you understand what geometric extraction is. Likewise, let's look at this next example that a student used when they were dealing with transformations. Unit 1 is about transformations. 3 different types of transformations. You have a translation, a reflection, and rotation. The picture helps you understand what's going on. For instance, a translation involves taking an object and actually moving it from one place to another on the coordinate form. A reflection, on the other hand, has to have a line and you take an object and you reflect it over that line. A rotation means I'm taking an object, I'm going to rotate it like in here, point C to over here, point C, and I'm going to rotate it a certain angle. The first three, translation, reflection, and rotation, are rigid transformations because the object does not change its shape or form. It's just translated, reflected, or rotated. On the other hand, a dilation is also a transformation, but if you can clearly see that the object changes size. So when an object is congruent after a transformation, that's why we call it a rigid transformation, whereas a dilation is a transformation, but it's not rigid. The picture helps us cement down permanently the differences in these different transformations. The picture is a key for learning geometry. Pretest. Every unit will have a pretest. First, you need to see how many questions are on that pretest. And when you do the pretest, you should plan for 2 minutes per question. 2 minutes per question. So if it has 24 questions, you want to take 48 minutes maximum. Here's an example of the screen for the pretest. In this case, this is for the introduction unit for geometry and transformations. We open up on the tab up at the top here, and it shows you have 24 questions. So we need to know that 24 questions times 2 minutes is 48 minutes. That's one class period to do the pretest. If you're taking 2, 3, 4 days on the pretest, you are not doing it correctly. And if you're trying to use like PhotoMath or Mathway or any other app which is out there, you're just setting yourself up for defeat, and I will share with you exactly why. So, plagiarism, let's speak about this. Plagiarism is the representation of another author's works, thoughts, ideas, expressions, or one's own original work. In other words, when you copy something from someone, that is plagiarism, unless you're using a proper citation, okay, with a referencing and saying, hey, I did get this information for here, but it should not be copied word for word. The same thing is with inside the course. We have discussion topics. If you notice these little pictures there, these are pictures of other students. When you go to answer the discussion, you are able to see the questions by the other students. That is by design. You're on our own line and we're remote. Sometimes because of the pandemic, we were not allowed to be in the same classroom. Even though we are right now, everyone is wearing a mask inside the classroom, which makes it difficult to communicate. But that's why we need these discussions, because research says that students learn better when we're able to collaborate or talk or speak about a subject. So, but when you do your response, do not copy someone else's answer. You need to provide your own answer. And I'm going to show you how you can do that to make sure you can get your maximum points. So here's the discussion questions. It's about geometric abstraction, it's about artwork, it's about American artists. It actually includes some names of the artists. And then it starts to give us directions. So the first thing you got to do is unpack this sucker. So here's the discussion. Geometric abstraction is a form of artwork that uses geometric forms or shapes. Some of the 21st century American artists, and they give you the list of the artists. But this is what they want you to do. Locate some pieces by this artist. In other words, take the artist's name, go into a Google search, and search for this artist and find some of their work. How does the artist use the geometry to elicit a feeling of emotion? What might the artist's purpose be in creating the work? In your mind, how does geometry contribute to the success or failure of the piece? And do you appreciate this kind? You answer each one of these questions. This is 1 sentence, 2, 3, 4, 5. You answer 5 sentences on this discussion question, you'll probably get 100% if it's your own work. Each lesson has a format. It has a tutorial. Just to let you know, if you redo the tutorial, it will unlock the mastery lesson, mastery test. You have to get 80% for mastery level. It gives you 3 attempts to unlock it. On the 3rd time, it locks it you have to come to the teacher to unlock it. But guess what? The teacher will only unlock it if you have a copy of notes or the guided notes. Because if you didn't do the guided notes, that's one of the reasons for you to fail that mastery test. If you have, so your choice, you could do the guided notes or you can actually do the teacher notes. Let's talk about this guided notes and where you can find those. The guided notes are in the lesson, and if you look here on the other side, on this left-hand column, see this little thing says resources. This is the guided notes. If you click on that for the guided notes, it gives you guided notes. It follows your lesson tutorial. You can either have it printed out, or you can print it out on your own printer. You can ask Dr. Smith, and he will be glad to go ahead and give you a printed copy of this guided notes. Or on your computer, you can probably use the Kami application, which it has a big K. It doesn't show on my computer here, but there's a big K. Anytime you're opening up documents like this, what you can do is type it in there and save a digital copy. Smart decision would be the following, is that in order to do your guided notes, what you want to do is when you complete the tutorial is to do this. First, review the left side content, like I mentioned. Print out your guided notes, so use Kami to use the digital documents, and open your learning log and copy the lesson objective. Okay, so here are the guided notes as I've mentioned, which are right over there, and that's how you get to them. Okay, your daily learning log. This is critical. If I was going to plan a trip leaving from Hemet to San Francisco, and I've never driven, and that's true, I have never driven from Hemet to San Francisco, I can just get on the road and just start driving and say, I'm just going to go north and just hope I hit it. That's one way. I would probably get lost somewhere, and some places I probably would not want to go to. But the smart thing is to put the address inside that I'm going to in San Francisco into my car's navigation system, or go down to AAA and get a set of maps, or go buy a map and actually plan my route before I go. It makes so much sense to plan out your route. The same thing as you're learning every day. So the reason in the orientation I said to come up with a daily learning log is because you need to answer these questions. Your brain works more effectively when it understands where it's about to go and what you are supposed to learn. So what am I learning? You're saying in this lesson, you will become acquainted with the history, career applications, and logical structure and development of geometry. Where did I get that from? I got that from either two places. When you start out your lesson, it will give you that. Okay. Let me do it this way instead. Also, remember when I talked about that the syllabus has each one of these lessons here and the activities, and it has specifically the objectives, and it says become acquainted with history, career applications, logical structure, and development of geometry. That's where I got that at. Why are you learning this? You need to have a why, a daily why. To complete your math credits for graduation, how do I know that I got it? You have to score 80% or higher on a lesson. Where do I go to get help? You have to ask your teacher for help. That's why you need this daily learning log. When you're completing the tutorial, go over and look. Take a quick look and see. This is how they're basically organized. First, they give you an objective. Then they give you an introduction about the topic. Then they start teaching you. Then they normally give you a video, and make sure if you're doing your tutorial that you look out for videos. In other words, they're highlighted or they have a little arrow. It says click me. Okay. Sometimes you may click me or click the link and it's broken. Please tell your teacher and share that information. Then you have a check-in for understanding. Whoa, they give you a lesson, a video, check-in for understanding. Then they're going to talk about the structure of geometry. Then they have axioms for proven theorems. This is the topic. And then they check it for understanding. Then you go career and geometry and a lesson activity. Your lesson activities, make sure you print these out. These activities are help to deepen your understanding. And guess what? The electronic apps do not work on the lesson activities. Then you also have a slide for career and geometry and a summary. The summary should have an aha moment. Excuse me. An aha moment. What do I mean by aha moment? The summary summarizes everything you were supposed to learn. So when you look at this summary, it should be an aha moment because every word that is on that summary, you should understand. If you do not understand something that's on the summary, stop, time out, go back into your tutorial lesson to make sure you understand it. Then go back to the summary again. Read everything on the summary. If you read the summary and you're seeing mental pictures and you said, oh, I know that, or you can take up a pencil and on paper and explain that topic to someone else who may be sitting at home, then guess what? Aha, you got it. Then when you take your lesson, you're good to go. All right, let's talk about those unit activities. These unit activities have a rubric. Not all activities are the same. You see that this unit activity has 10 points. Look at this next one, 100 points. Which one you receive has more points? This one. And guess what? Your math apps are not going to be able to help you do this activity. So you need to make sure that you're reading it and following directions. And that's it. Once you do that, you finish the lesson and you're ready to go to the next. Question is, are you going to take 1 day, 2 days, or 3 days to do it? How to pass a mastery test? Very simple. 1, complete the guided notes and have it checked by your teacher before taking the mastery test. Duh. Next, read each question 2 times. What to do after the mastery test? Get feedback from your teacher for all questions that you missed. Retain learning information. In other words, retake previous mastery tests before taking a new one. Yes, it's called spiraling back. And the next, retake all mastery tests within a unit before taking the unit post test. If you follow the things that are inside this guide, you will be successful.